Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a discussion on none other than James Rodriguez. How often do we have a James Rodriguez discussion on this channel? I'm joined by David from the County Road Bobblers. Welcome to the show, David, and of course, straight into it, James Rodriguez. When are we going to stop talking about James Rodriguez on this channel? He's still here, just about. It's still a chance that he could go to Turkey, linked with a few clubs here and there, but we're already quite sort of thin on the ground in terms of squad at the moment. Would you sell James Rodriguez? Let's get straight into the nitty gritty of it. Would you sell James?
I think based on what you've just said there, if the question was just to sell him, James, I'd be quite tempted, to be honest with you. The problem being is that we're unlikely to probably sell him. It's going to be more like release or loan, and that then becomes a bit of an issue because he's on big money, and I don't know, unless he's on an all-inclusive in Marmaris, I don't think many of them Turkish sides potentially could afford that, that heavy outlay on the wages. James is obviously a quality player, and I begrudge to criticise his footballing ability because he's an absolute magician. His left foot is like nothing we've really seen at Goodison Park and probably Leighton Baines, God bless his soul. But it's just one of them really weird situations. James Rodriguez potentially, when he's on tune, he's focused, could walk into any side right across world football. But what are we going to get out of James? Is he going to be committed? I think there was an article today by Greg O'Keefe in The Athletic that were posing a couple of questions based on that. You just don't know what you're going to get. The good thing was the Colombian manager came out the other day, and he basically said that if James wanted to play in the World Cup, that A, he had to be 500% fit. God, I mean, that's going to take some doing for starters, but B, he would also have to be starting for Everton regularly in the first team or whichever team he's playing for at that point. Now that gives us a bit of flavour, really, that, maybe he might not be fully motivated with Carlo moving on, but he loves Colombia. He wants to play for the national team. So that muddies the situation a bit, because if we can get James motivated, if we can get him back focused, then we haven't got anyone else like that off the Everton bench. I think his wages are a big factor. He's on about £11 million per annum. Obviously, it's less than 12 months on his contract now. That's a heavy outlay for someone that might be sitting on the bench. That's another factor that we should consider. But, do we all want a motivated James Rodriguez when we're playing against some of these teams that are hard to break down, or we need to spark a magic in a big game? Then yes, of course we do. But there's a lot to talk about with him, isn't there? I think it's fair to say.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, there's plenty to discuss. Of course, James Rodriguez has been spotted on his jollies. Of course, what's your take on the images that have come out of him on holiday? There's rumours that he was in Costa Rica, which is on the red list. So I think they've been quashed now. Apparently, he's in Ibiza or something. He's pretty much trotted the entire globe in the space of a couple of days, if you believe what Everton fans have been saying on social media.
It's like the FBI, isn't it? You know what I mean? That, like, all the kinds of digging that goes on, and I think because we're all bored because we've got nothing else to do, then people start to look at what the players are up to on the socials, and it's hard really because he is a global brand, and I had this discussion the other day. We're not going to control what James Rodriguez posts on his social media. Now, I quite get what people were saying in response when we posted this, that some people were saying, well, he's not really earning his money, so he should be thinking about what he's doing. And football, sadly, it has moved on. These players are probably totally out of touch, with who we are, the working class people on the street. There's the odd exception. We still see players like Stephen Naismith, who spent a lot of time with the homeless, and Tom Davies, obviously. Like that. I wouldn't say too much because I get told off by McAllister will be on my case saying about Tom Davies, won't he? But but Tom Davies, obviously a man who spends a lot of time helping out communities. But some of these bigger, footballers now, they're getting more and more out of touch with everyday life, and it's hard because people do get frustrated, and you can understand, the reasons why. But I think it's never going to change. Football's only getting, the gap's getting wider and wider. him vaping in Ibiza when he's been allowed to go there, I don't really think it's that much of an issue. You know, he's obviously been given the break. The club have made that decision. No one's moaning about Alan in you know, in Disneyland or wherever Alan's trotted off to with his family. But I didn't see him on the lash and all that type of thing. And dancing in nightclubs at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's just sat off there enjoying himself and having a bit of a vape. Thierry Henry and Zidane smoked. I just think we just get too obsessed with the minor details. Look, he is what it is.
People were saying like the early days of Alex Ferguson winning titles at Man United, they were all going to the pub after training.
Yeah, no, it's do you know what it's like, mate? And I do get, you can't dismiss what people are thinking, because everyone's got the right to view things how they want, and I respect that people have got different views on it, but it's not a concern for me. All I'm asked about is, if he gets back playing, that that A, he's committed, and B, he's focused on playing football for Everton Football Club and the fans. I'm not particularly bothered if he's being allowed to jet off on a private jet somewhere. It's just the way they live now, and it is different, and we do get frustrated at times. But
could that be where the issue's coming from with some supporters, that he's going away and he's sort of vaping and he's kind of taking it a bit easy in the middle of a season where you think maybe he should?
Yeah.
Is he going to be in the right frame of mind when he comes back from that? Like, is he going to be at his best sort of levels?
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate question, isn't it? But it's not HMP Finch Farm. These people are still employees. That they've still got a life. I've just come back from Mallorca, and I know you've just come back from your Joels as well. My employee didn't decide how hard to work before I went on me leave somewhere. I'm sure if he did, he probably wouldn't have let me go, to be honest with you. But now, but in all seriousness, though, it's they are still employees. They still have got a life. They still got a family. And well-being's important as well. After the last 18 months we've been through, the mental health crisis that we've seen. And just a shout out while we're on for Talk Hub and Jay Deacon. There's a walk that he's just published out there as well. So follow at Talk Hub and give Jay a follow there, and have a look at some of the stuff that he's got coming up.
Talk Hub?
Yeah, Talk Hub, because obviously Jay runs a group for mainly Evertonians, to get out and talk about their issues and mental health. It really does matter, especially after the crisis we've been through. And he's a fantastic lad. He does actually allow Reds welcome into the group and other clubs, but mainly Blues. But no, in all seriousness, no, we've been through a lot. Even these players, the young or older lads, and it doesn't really matter. They've been through the same crisis that we've got. Let's understand that. And if the club have decided that he can go on his holidays, then it is what it is. Maybe he just needed to retune himself. He was expecting possibly to leave the club. That window is nearly over. We'll see if there is that last minute thing, it's out it. But maybe they've said, look, right, that's gone now. Go away. Get yourself a little jolly, and we want you back here focused. Then and they've allowed other players to do it as well. So let's be consistent. If we're going to be annoyed at him, let's be annoyed at everyone who's gone away and it's not like training, doing short runs at Finch Farm.
It's bad when you think about that. We want our players to basically be slaved.
That's what it is. Yeah, and again, people will go, yeah, but he's on 300 grand a week and I'm only on whatever. But look, this is football. This is an issue with football in general. It's not, you can't decide. The fans can't decide, unfortunately, who deserves a break and who doesn't. And if the club allow players to leave for a window of time when there's internationals on, when that's going to be universal. They can't crack the whip and start, it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. People are allowed a break. People are allowed life. And I'm sorry if it's going to upset people. People want things to be the other way, but they can't be, and they're not going to be. So,
like I say, I don't mind if the players go away, if the ones who aren't on international go away and do what they want. But
yeah.
It's one of those. I do think sometimes we do need to see the more human side of football. We don't I think, like you say, the amount of money, I think, is what causes that sort of rift and like that sort of loss of reality almost.
Yeah, you're right, and I think people are right sometimes. They say, well, he's paid this amount of money, then we expect a certain level of commitment, and that's that's probably a fair shout. But if the club have made that decision, then he's only doing what he's been allowed to do. So look, let's get him back. If he doesn't go, let's expect that commitment then. Do what he should be when he's actually here, and he's been contracted to be here. That's what we all really care about, and a motivated, committed James Rodriguez, is a player that everyone should be scared of, and Evertonians should celebrate. Hopefully, we get that version back if he does stay.
That's if he does stay, of course. We'll name a couple of the clubs he's been linked with. One of them, Medipol Başakşehir. Yeah, I mean, will they have? I mean, I know they're one of the richer clubs, but still, will they have enough to pay that kind of money for James Rodriguez?
Not a chance, is there? It's and this is the thing. Look, if Rafa's got to think about it and think, right, is he going to play? And there was a lot of people actually speculated we wouldn't create chances without James Rodriguez in the side, and a player that obviously we won't go into on this podcast. But a lot of people said, missing them two players that were creating a lot of our chances, that we might struggle this year. Now, neither of them have played the two number 10s essentially that we had, and I think we were highest on the XG. Actually in open play, we're creating more chances than I can remember for a long time. Of our kind of more direct pace style. The question mark is then, does James probably come back into that starting 11? Sounds like an absolute ludicrous question to ask, but that's about the team and not upsetting the balance. Possibly as a number 10, if they were looking to play to Toure and Allen and they slightly tweak the way we're playing, and maybe move Richarlison, but then you've got to take one of the other players out that have been playing well. So yeah, it's I don't think we can afford him. I don't want to see him go, and then we're only paying, they're only paying 20% of his wage or something like that. Because if that's the case, league positions, it'll earn us money anyway. So what will we save? 2 million. Well, if we finish 4 or 5 places better up, then we're going to make that 2 million up anyway. Now, it does make you ask questions, though. If he does want to leave to Turkey to a team that aren't high up competing in the Champions League, what are his motivations? Is he committed to football? Not just Everton. Is he really that bothered anymore about football? So that raises a few question marks. But look, it's a question for Rafa. It's a question whether he thinks that he can get the commitment from him. And we've been moaning for years. Well, I've been moaning for years that some of the players that have been wearing this football shirt haven't cared about the fans, haven't really understood the importance of wearing the Everton jersey. And it should be an honour. It should be a pleasure. It should be something that they fight for, and I don't think we've seen that enough. So that means that there are a couple of victims out of this, because actually we just want committed players. We want players that are going to perform here, then so be it. But look, if there's any chance of keeping them, let's weigh up the negatives and the positives. And I think the positives will probably outweigh the negatives. And we should just possibly keep him there and try and reintegrate him into the side, because look, he's a good player, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the decision to offload him will be a financial one. I don't think it'll be too much down to the fact that he and Benitez don't have an amazing relationship. I think it'll be down to will offloading him save us money and help us rebuild next summer.
Yeah, you know what, and that's an interesting one actually, because there's a lot of unrest online at the moment. Just as Carlo was going, obviously I sit on the fans forum as well, and I'd spoke to the club and asked them the day before Carlo was going for them to be more visible and come out and give us a plan, and and be ahead of that recruit. Be very visible with leadership about how we're going to recruit a new manager, who we're going to recruit, what the strategy is, what we're going to do as a club. Because I felt the fans deserve to know that, and I felt like we were yeah. And I still say the same. I seen Spurs do it the other day. I seen Newcastle do it.
Arsenal even as well.
Arsenal. Now there'll be people who say, that right, that we don't need to know everything, but I disagree. I do think that, the football club should be accountable. The football club should, at least let the fans know where we're intending to go. I think Rafa has possibly, give some of that indication. I think he said in pre-season a few times about financial fair play and that we were going to be up against it. But all right, well, what's happening in 12 months? Where are we looking to be when we get to Bramley Moore? Are we looking to start recruiting younger players? Are we changing the model? Are we starting to be more strategic in terms of, the players we're looking for maybe rough diamonds like Damari Gray, who may be a good player, who is just kind of fallen between the cracks, and we're going to try and revive them. You know, we're not going to splash out 50 million, 40 million here and there as we used to, but at least give us a bit of a clue. And I still think I think this is the root cause of some of this annoyance at the moment, because fans feel slightly frustrated. If they knew the bigger picture, we don't need to know everything, but if we knew some direction of where we're going to go, then say, for example, if we did make a decision on James, we might then understand why we've let him go, because actually, it forms part of a bigger plan, and at least we know where we're going as a fan base.
Do you think that we will release any sort of statement or do anything along those lines? Because I think I've been crying out for that for a while, to be honest. We need clarity.
Yeah. I don't think we will. I'll be honest with you. It's something that I've said, and I'm sure you've used your content to ask for the same. And there's people out there who have all asked for this, but because we've changed so many managers, I believe that genuinely believe we need some clarity at this stage. And people will say, "Well, get back in your place. You're just a fan." But look, this football club belongs to the fans.
Every football club belongs to its fans, in my opinion.
It does, and we're going to be here for generations more after the owners that are here now and the people who work for the club at the moment are. So it's just that's just my view. I just believe that if we see in the bigger picture, if we had a 3-year plan, we don't have to give us every detail, but tell us what our strategy is. Give us a rough idea what's going to go on in the next 3 years. How are we going to address this fact that we do need to be smarter financially? How are we going to recruit as a result of that? What should the fans expect? And I think that would just make it a lot easier then for fans to understand some decisions. And
it quell the unrest. Starters.
Yeah, 100%. And James will ultimately will cause unrest. There'll be plenty of people who will kick off and say, "We're ridiculous, we're letting this great football player go." There will be other people who say, "Well, no, actually, I can kind of understand it financially." There'll be other people who say, "Well, he's not committed. If he wants to go to Turkey, then, surely that tells us that he's not committed, because he's going to a team that aren't competing for anything. And does he really want to play football?" There's always factions. Twitter, social media polarizes opinions, and there's people either side of that who get very passionate, and got to respect everyone else's view. It's just opinions at the end of the day. But I think some sense of direction, some sense of a plan would certainly just go away to help us understand some of these bigger decisions that are being made.
Certainly. And on James, of course, a decision's got to be made at the end of the season. If he does stick around, there's the contract extension option as well, which is looking very unlikely that it'll be extended. But again, you never know. It all depends, because we've seen it. We've done it with much worse players than James, where a player's had a half-decent season and we've extended his contract a year in the hope we can get a transfer fee or something.
Yeah, I think I can understand some of the logic when we do that. There's certainly talk about John Joe Kenny getting 12 months just so we can sell him. Problem is if you then can't sell him, so you're ultimately paying that extra 12 months out, and you're not necessarily guaranteed a return on it. I'm trying to think of the lad's name, the forward who's just gone out on loan. Broadhead was a good example of that. We've seen there was a lot of question marks when Broadhead extended his contract by 12 months. But I think when I looked at the time, Broadhead was only on about £2,500 a week. Now, obviously, that's probably, he's probably earning more than that now because he did extend his contract. But the risk for us extending his contract for 12 months was relatively low. And if we do then get a fee, then potentially that's justified. Sunderland's he's gone, so I think he'll do all right at Sunderland. They've got a rich history of Irish players doing well there at Sunderland and a bit of connection to the Irish players.
That's Welsh, isn't
he? I thought he was Irish, Broadhead.
No, Wales.
You're going to correct me now. Well, there you go. Sorry, you learn something new every day there, don't you? But James is a much different situation because James is potentially on 200 odd grand a week. How do you convince James to lower his contract to say 75 just so we can get some value off him? You won't. He'll just stand firm. It's going to be one of his last contracts that he's got potentially. So James Rodriguez, to extend his contract for 12 months, you're going to look at paying him another £11 million. That's a lot of money to extend someone's contract. Someone again,
That's
who's
a
not going to
potential transfer fee for another player.
Yeah, exactly. And then the signing on fees, imagine, there'll be some money that'll surround that for agents and signing on fees and all that kind of stuff. So, it's some of these bigger players, they don't come without complications. And, I'm always suspicious of the money that moves hands around them as well. If it's just it's never that straightforward fee or the straightforward wage. There always seems to be, money that comes with that as well. So I wouldn't extend his contract 12 months, but I can see the logic keeping him, because if we do get up 3 places in the league, for example, the 2 million or the 3 million that we'd save, we probably make that back anyway through league position.
So basically what you're basically saying is we need to finish higher up the table.
Yeah, we do. And look, that James Rodriguez, if he stays and scores whatever 4 goals and 7 assists, and you can possibly play him occasionally as a, coming onto the game and playing as a false 9 for example, and holding onto the ball, and you know what I mean, or play him off one of the big target man we've got to add that little threat, as the games are pushing on. We haven't got that kind of quality off the bench. Again, we've moaned about, I think last season, was there only 1 goal from a player coming off the bench? I think impact wise, I think there was 1 goal all season.
It was Sigurdsson's penalty. It was Sigurdsson's penalty in the derby.
Yeah,
that was it.
And that was it. So we've moaned about not having them players to come off and impact the game. Now there's an argument that James would all of a sudden be much more motivated because of the World Cup coming up, and he'd want to really cement his place in the Everton side and play well. So yeah, why not keep him and just have that quality coming off the bench? I think it makes sense financially, unless you are getting 100% of his wages. And then let's explain it. Let's tell us why he's going and be honest about it, and say, look, he's going now, but that'll mean that we can maybe look at more transfers next summer. Give us a bit of hope or something to look to.
Exactly. Well, we'll leave it at that on the James front. We'll have a bit more of a transfer discussion in the next show anyway. So we'll leave it at that anyway, guys. Let us know your opinions on James. Do you want to keep him? Do you want to sell him? It's very, like David said there, it's very polarising amongst the fan base, and he's as I said at the start, he's the name on everyone's lips. You can't stop talking about James Rodriguez as long as the transfer window's open somewhere. So yeah, let us know your opinions. If you want to keep him, sell him, why you want to keep him or sell him. Get involved and drop us a comment. Give this video a like and subscribe for more content. Of course, give the County Road Bobblers a follow as well on Twitter. So yeah, that's it, guys. Let us know your opinions, and thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.